Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I just want to start this video with a huge thank you to all of you amazing people. We've hit 47 subscribers. Your support means the world to me, and I couldn't have done it without you. But guess what? Only 3% of you watching this right now are actually subscribed. So if you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button while you're at it. Don't forget to also turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. We're officially on the road to 100 subscribers, and my goal is to hit that milestone by the end of 2025. Let's make it happen together. Now I've got a fun little challenge for you all. In the comments, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. If you can guess the number, I'll pin your comment and give it a like. Just one rule, you've got to be subscribed to win. So, go ahead and drop your guesses below. Alright, enough chit-chat. Let's get right into the video. I first saw him at the corner of Main Street and Whitlock Avenue, standing under the flickering light of a street lamp. It was late, well past midnight, and I was walking home after staying late at the office. He was just standing there, motionless, wearing the same gray hoodie and jeans I had on. At first I thought he might be mirroring me, mocking me, but when I stopped, he didn't. When I crossed the street to get a better look, he stayed under the light, staring at me with an eerie intensity. His face, it was mine. Every line, every freckle, every imperfection. It wasn't just a resemblance, it was me. A shiver ran down my spine as I hurried the rest of the way home, glancing over my shoulder every few seconds. But when I looked back one last time before turning the corner, he was gone. Days passed, and I convinced myself it had been a trick of the light, or maybe my imagination. But then strange things started happening. My sister, Angela, called me one morning, furious. "Do you think this is funny, David?" she snapped. "What are you talking about?" I asked, genuinely confused. "You came to my house last night, banged on the windows, and yelled until I called the cops. Then you just left. What the hell is wrong with you?" "I didn't go to your house, Angela. I was home all night," I said, my heart sinking. "You expect me to believe that? You were wearing that same stupid gray hoodie. I saw you." I tried to reason with her, but she hung up on me. Then my boss at the advertising firm called me into his office. He was holding a security tape from the parking garage. "David, this doesn't look good," he said, hitting play. On the screen, there I was, or rather, my double, slashing the tires of his car. I watched in horror as the grainy footage showed me sneering at the camera before walking away. My coworkers avoided me after that. My friends stopped answering my calls. Even my girlfriend, Emily, was acting distant. She finally broke up with me after finding a series of angry texts I supposedly sent to her phone, texts I knew I hadn't written. "David, I don't know what's going on with you, but I can't take this anymore," she said, tears streaming down her face. I tried to explain, but how could I? I couldn't even prove my innocence. Everywhere I turned, there he was, ruining my life one piece at a time. One night, I caught him. I was walking through the park when I saw him standing near the playground watching me. This time, I didn't run. "Who the hell are you?" I shouted, marching toward him. He tilted his head, his lips curling into a chilling smile. "I'm you, David. The better you." "No, you're not. You're some kind of freak. What do you want?" "To replace you," he said simply. "You've had your turn. Now it's mine." I lunged at him, but he moved faster than I thought possible, slipping away into the shadows. That night, I started locking every door and window in my apartment, but it didn't matter. He always found a way in. Angela called me again, sobbing. "Mom's in the hospital," she said. "What happened?" "She says you pushed her down the stairs." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Angela, I swear to you, I didn't—" "Just stay away from us, David," she interrupted, her voice cold. It was happening. He was isolating me, cutting me off from everyone I loved, and the more I fought to clear my name, the deeper I sank. Sleep became impossible. Every shadow, every noise in my apartment felt like him. I was trapped in a cycle of paranoia and fear, not knowing when or where he would strike next. I stopped going to work, stopped trying to contact my family or friends. They had all turned against me, convinced of the lies he had crafted. One night, as I sat in the corner of my living room clutching a baseball bat, I heard the creak of my front door. "David," his voice called out, sickly sweet. "You're making this too easy." I bolted to my feet, heart hammering. "What do you want from me?" I screamed. He stepped into the light, his face a mirror of mine, but with a twisted grin that didn't belong to me. His eyes gleamed with malice, and there was a cruel, almost amused edge to his voice. "I told you," he said. "I'm here to replace you. Your life is mine now." Before I could react, he lunged at me. We grappled, tumbling over the coffee table and onto the floor. He was stronger than he looked, his grip like iron. But desperation gave me an edge. I grabbed the bat and swung it with all my strength. The impact sent him sprawling, but he only laughed. "You can't kill me, David. I'm you." I fled the apartment that night, unable to face the madness that had consumed my life. I wandered the streets, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. Instead, I found my face staring back at me from a wanted poster stapled to a telephone pole. Wanted for questioning in connection to multiple assaults. My name, my picture. He had done it. He had stolen my identity completely, and now the world was hunting me while he walked free. I tried to fight back. I snuck back into my apartment to gather evidence, to find something that would prove his existence. But when I arrived, it was as if I had never lived there. All my things were gone, replaced with new furniture, new clothes. His clothes. He had taken over my life entirely. As I stood in the living room, stunned, I heard footsteps behind me. "Time's up, David," he said. I turned, and there he was, holding a knife. He lunged at me with the knife, but I dodged, adrenaline pumping through my veins. This wasn't just about my life anymore. It was about reclaiming my identity, my family, everything he had stolen. I grabbed a heavy lamp off the table and swung it at him. The crash echoed through the apartment as it shattered against his arm, sending the knife clattering to the floor. He stumbled back, clutching his arm, but the sinister grin never left his face. "You can't win, David," he sneered. "Even if you kill me, they'll still believe it's you. You'll always be the monster in their eyes." I ignored him and dove for the knife. My fingers closed around the handle just as he tackled me, pinning me to the floor. We struggled, his hands tightening around my throat as I gasped for air. With a desperate burst of strength, I drove the knife into his side. His eyes widened in shock, and he collapsed beside me, blood pooling on the floor. For a moment, I thought it was over. But then, as I staggered to my feet, he started laughing, a low, guttural sound that sent chills down my spine. "You really think this is the end?" he rasped. "You can't kill what you are, David. I'll always be a part of you." His body dissolved into shadows, evaporating before my eyes. I left the apartment that night, my mind reeling. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Was he truly gone? Or was he lurking somewhere, waiting to strike again? I spent the next few weeks living in motels, avoiding everyone I knew. The police were still searching for me, and the news reports painted me as a violent fugitive. Every time I saw my face on TV, I felt the weight of his words. "You'll always be the monster in their eyes." But the worst part was the silence from my family. Angela stopped answering my calls. My mother, still recovering from her fall, refused to see me. Emily had moved on, her social media filled with pictures of her smiling with someone new. I tried to rebuild my life in a new city under a new name, but no matter how far I ran, I couldn't escape the feeling that he was still out there, watching me. Strange things began to happen. I'd find notes scrawled in my handwriting, left on my doorstep. "You can't run forever." I'd catch glimpses of my reflection moving differently than I was. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps behind me when no one was there. One night, I woke up to find him sitting at the foot of my bed, smiling. "Miss me?" he whispered. I scrambled out of bed, my heart racing. He was gone, leaving no trace that he had ever been there. But the next morning, I found a single chilling reminder, a photograph on my nightstand. It was a picture of my family, taken years ago, but there was something wrong. My face had been replaced with his, the same twisted grin staring back at me. On the back, scrawled in my own handwriting, were the words, You're already gone." I tore the photo apart, but it didn't matter. The message was clear. He wasn't just haunting me, he was erasing me. Over the next few weeks, I began to notice more changes. My reflection in the mirror would linger a moment too long, moving slightly out of sync. People on the street would glare at me or cross to the other side, muttering under their breath. I couldn't blame them. Every so often, I'd catch glimpses of myself in store windows or passing cars, and it wasn't me. It was him. That same sick grin, those eyes filled with malice. The final straw came when I tried to call Angela. Her voice was cold, distant. "What do you want, David?" I just need to hear your voice," I said, choking back tears. "I don't have anything to say to you. You've already done enough." "I didn't do any of those things, Angela. It wasn't me." She laughed bitterly. "Then who was it? Your evil twin? Just leave us alone." Desperate, I decided to dig into my past, trying to understand what was happening to me. I found an old therapist's report from when I was a child, buried in a box of family documents. It mentioned something called a tether phenomenon, a rare and poorly understood occurrence where an individual experiences manifestations of their shadow self. The report suggested that I had exhibited signs of a fragmented identity, though the therapist dismissed it as an overactive imagination. But now, I wasn't so sure. If this tether was real, it wasn't just a part of me. It was taking me. I decided to face him once and for all. I went back to the apartment, the place where this nightmare had begun. I stood in the darkened living room, waiting. "I know you're here," I shouted. He stepped out of the shadows, calm and composed. "Of course I'm here. I've always been here." "You've ruined my life," I said, my voice trembling. "No, David, you ruined it yourself. I'm just cleaning up the mess." He circled me like a predator, his grin widening. "But you're not strong enough to face what you are. That's why I exist, to take the parts of your life you can't handle." I clenched my fists. "You won't win." "I already have," he said, his voice low and menacing. Before I could react, he lunged at me again, but this time I didn't fight back. Instead, I let him pin me to the floor, his face inches from mine. "What are you doing?" he hissed, his expression faltering. "You want my life so badly? Take it," I said. For a moment, he seemed confused, even hesitant. But then he smiled, triumphant. "Gladly." I felt a strange sensation, like my very essence was being pulled away. The room spun, and everything went black. When I woke up, I was standing in a park, surrounded by strangers who didn't seem to notice me. I looked down at my hands. They weren't mine anymore. They were his. I was the tether now, a shadow without a name, without a life. I watched from the sidelines as he seamlessly stepped into my world, smiling and laughing with my family and friends, while I faded into nothingness. I screamed, but no one heard me. In the end, he had won.